action. It's all on you now. And just give me some reaction. Just follow you. Girl, I like the way you move. Really.
And this is still Rubbin Minds. And just before the break, we were looking at security. And we had quite a low score from Leonard, which was 2 out of 10. I mean, I'm very interested in knowing what Shego makes of that.
I think Leonard is giving them the score that they deserve, but I'll just be generous and give them maybe like a 4.
A 4.
Like
Well, a 4 and a 2 is still under average. So you're saying the government... let's not forget, one of the major things President Muhammadu Buhari promised was security, to secure the lives of every Nigerian. And that was the main thing. And everybody had so much faith, being a former general, being a former head of state. So you're saying this government is failing in security?
I think basically the issue is approach. There's a fairly younger population now.
Who are very vocal.
Who are very vocal, who are a little bit restless. You need to figure out a better social integration technique to ensure that they can be inspired towards patriotism. And if you cannot inspire them to be patriotic to the extent that they run away from crime, if you cannot give them a social safety net, if you cannot encourage them to be able to live the life that they want and get the good life they desire, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of understanding that you really cannot be using just the stick.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at different things, from getting help from other countries to even the subject of state police being broached, but nothing has been done about that. Do you think if there was state police, for example, that would reduce the cases of kidnapping, the cases of...
That is if state police is going to solve the underlying basis for crime in the first place, which is debilitating levels of poverty that has...
So the unemployment, the economy. So you see it as a multifaceted problem?
Multifaceted is a big word. I like to take it slowly. The man that was poor before you got to power is a lot poorer than he is today, which means his propensity to commit crime would have increased astronomically. I mean, when 70% of your populace is below absolute poverty line, you want to look to policies that will at least protect the lower base of society, the vulnerable and poor. But when you have a combination of economic policies that that has the net effect of further taking them far below that line, which is already really, really bad, then there's a desperation. So what we see in the Middle Belt, for instance, from a security standpoint, is an expression of desperation. Those are not areas prone to this kind of kidnapping and all of these kind of activities, historically speaking. For Borno State, it's always been a hub for violent activity from prehistoric times. But when you're looking at Akure, Benue, Kogi, and all that area that aren't exactly prone to this activity, and we begin to see them coming up, then it's a sign. It's not just a sign, it's a manifestation that you need to change the strategy.
So right now we're looking at the economy. I mean, the conversation has already moved to, right now things are getting harder and the poor are getting poorer, basically. So whether it's through the increase in fuel price to, I mean, for example, the dollar rate, that's a major issue, because there's the official rate, there's the rate for importing petroleum, and there's the rate that people buy in the black market, and all these have a ripple effect. Now, in terms of the economy, how would you rate this government?
Very poor. That's the angle that they are poorest. I mean, we cannot blame the government of the day for extraneous events, exigencies like the drop in price of crude oil and all of the ramification for foreign exchange. We cannot blame them for activities in the financial market that aren't exactly dependent on their policies. But we can blame them 100% for their response to those economic trends or economic events. So take, for instance, in an era where you have huge financial services sector issue and economic issues, then it takes you 6 months to appoint the Minister of Finance. That, for me, has already created enough speculation in the market to create this really wide gap between what is and what we think it is. So there was a lot of speculation before the ministry was finally filled. And then between that time and now, what is coming out, the output from that ministry has been anything but encouraging. It appears that there is...
I mean, let's not forget this government has promised the 5,000 naira for the vulnerable, for the poorest of the poor, you know, the unemployed graduates. And there's also the promise of 500,000 jobs, you know, for people to be teachers in primary school. So these are promises, but 1 year into office, can we still expect these promises
add
to
5.5 million children to be fed on a daily basis to that equation, and then take that out of a 500 billion naira budget, and then you ask yourself, how is this even remotely possible, arithmetically speaking? So again, it goes back to this naivety of throwing down numbers without being able to show how the numbers can deliver the objectives for which the objective you're chasing. So again, it's a question of, even if you look at the speech this morning, you see a lot of we will, without telling us we have, or this is how we intend to. So some of us that look to the numbers, we want to check your levers for achieving this big dream. We want to check if the how ties back to the what and all of that. So there's still a lot of promising going on without clear sense
of direction of how this is going to be implemented.
So I try to like this government, right, for one simple reason. He is president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The only president we have.
And I also try not to blame him for certain things, because the guys blowing up pipeline in the Niger Delta are Nigerians. The guys shooting up people up north are Nigerians. So we do have a duty of patriotism, right? And we cannot lay that duty at the foot of the government of the day. That would be unfair, right? But they have a responsibility to us as well, that when citizens do go out of norm, or when situations that could make citizens act abnormal exist, it is their job to proactively solve those problems or to react to those problems adequately when they do occur. So there is a bit of the balance of both sides here. And so my call will be, as individuals, we really have more to do to help this government get on track.
Okay. Segun, do you think there's anything that we can do to move the economy forward? I mean, there's so much about patriotism, but some would argue that the government is supposed to create an enabling environment, say, for SMEs to flourish, for foreign direct investment to return.
I think essentially, government must always know, any government, be it in America, be it in El Dorado or here, government must always know that anything government says, any policy government churns out, any promise government makes, people have the tendency to believe.
Absolutely.
And therefore, government must be guarded in its promises and its speech. Government cannot send conflicting signals to the private sector, to foreigners bringing money into the country, and expect that they can grow the economy. Essentially, what we see playing out here is that the government of the day has no clue. Look, this is...
So if you had to put a figure...
Yeah, I'm trying to put a figure. This is a country that eventually, in the last couple of years, was considered among the fastest growing economy of the world. You heard about BRIC nations.
Yes.
You've heard that they overtook, the size of the economy overtook South Africa. You heard of rebasing. You heard that even the private sector, where the young people are, a lot of investment went into Nollywood. A lot of investment went into music. A lot of investment went into agriculture, into areas where you can really capture enterprising young people. You heard of the U-Win program. You heard of the graduate support scheme. You heard of the revitalization of Bank of Industry. There were policies that were deliberately designed to ensure that young people who are willing can get opportunity. You heard that they created more universities to cover people. You heard that they created education support for the Almajiris, just to manage their mind, to move them away from poverty. The problem we have here is that when anybody takes on any assignment, be it the CEO of a company, the governor of a state, the president of the country, one of the first things you must never do, you must never come into office with the intention of saying that everything your predecessor did is wrong. Because when you do that, you will immediately start to say you don't want any of those policies, And time on the seat may propel you to come back to your vomit. Look at what's going on in the Niger Delta, for example. Those who came up with the amnesty program, those who came up with the protection contract for the pipeline, they went exactly stupid.
So if I take it, is we've made a lot of steps, but a lot of steps have been taken in
Exactly.
the backward direction.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your views and for rating this government. Although on the two issues we discussed, there was quite poor security and economy. Thank you so much, Leonard, also for joining us to discuss this administration's 1 year in office. And the show will continue. We will continue reviewing 1 year in office after this break. Stay tuned.